Okay, everybody, my name is Josh Benitez. I am a professional musician in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I wanted to share with you my process for learning a new song. So, for context, I get called for pickup gigs all the time. What is a pickup gig? It's essentially a gig where someone calls me to take the place of another musician who's unable to make the show, and a big part of that responsibility is being able to learn a song very fast. Sometimes I'll get a gig that is 4 hours long, and I will have about a day to, to the best of my ability, learn all that material. So how the heck do I do it? So first things first. For any performance at all, one of the most important things that you do is make sure you're learning the right version of a song. I'll never forget one of my best slash worst experiences ever was I was asked to learn I'm Waiting on My Man, and I learned the Lou Reed version when they wanted the David Bowie live 1964 version, I think it was. Thankfully I have a degree in jazz, so I was able to improvise and fill in the gaps in a way that was responsible and good for the song and the performance. However, it doesn't always work out that way. So, first things first, learn the correct version. Now, the next thing that I would really strongly advise, and this isn't always the case, but it's definitely my advice, listen to the song as if you were just a regular listener. Don't listen like you're a musician who's learning a guitar part, or a musician who's learning the vocal lines, or a musician who's learning the drum parts. What will happen is when we listen to a piece specifically to learn a part, our brain automatically emphasizes those pieces, and we can easily miss everything that's going around that piece. And this is really common even in orchestras or jazz ensembles. One of the things that they'll make sure to tell you is don't bury your face in the book, in the music notes. Don't bury your face in your part, because it's so easy to miss the context of everything that's happening. And something that's really important to note is that with a live performance, there's no telling what will change, whether it's on purpose or accident, whether the lead singer is going with the flow and they want to extend a section, or the drummer drops their drumsticks. It's important to listen to the entire band as just a listener, as just an enjoyer of the song. And what that will do is it'll help build a really strong framework, so that when perhaps you make a mistake, you drop a part, you drop a line, the whole framework helps to hold you together and keep you going. Which brings me to the next thing is, of course, like the context. What is the context we're learning the song for? If we are learning the song for like a campfire kind of thing, like we're just gonna, like, I told my girlfriend I would learn this song, then all that stuff, not as important. It can super be helpful, but not as important, right? So knowing the context helps determine, what's important. And it helps us key in on the things that can support our role or can give us that independence. So how I would learn a song to sing by myself or to play guitar by myself is completely different than how I would learn in the context of a jazz ensemble. So know the context. And it's of course helpful to be able to perform in both capacities, yet not necessary always. Now, where does that take us? So we know the correct version. We've listened to it as a listener, and we know the context. So what is our next thing? All right, headphones. Really, I can say that you can learn a song without headphones, and I will say that learning without headphones is way more difficult than you need to make it on yourself. And why is that? Well, unfortunately for most listeners, the speakers on this bad boy over here, the range of music that comes through the speakers is pretty inconsistent. So you'll miss a lot of bass frequencies, the highs will be weird, the mids will be weird, and what'll end up happening is sort of like the same effect as when we zoom in on our part too early on, is because of the music coming out of the computer speakers, we end up missing the greater context of the piece. And so you'll end up learning the song as you think you know it from the computer, and then you get to the gig and suddenly you hear the bass line and you don't know where you fit in the piece. And I can tell you from experience that that is a very real thing. So definitely, if you can, use speakers. You don't have to, of course. Believe me, I've learned songs on the way to a gig through my iPhone speaker, and it can be done. It's also way harder than it needs to be. So, what's next after that? So you've listened to the correct version as a just an enjoyer of music. You have understood the context that you're going to be playing, and you have listened to it with headphones to give you like this greater context of what you're doing. And so now what? Well, my first advice is to do your best to learn your part without assistance. So if you're learning the vocals, try to learn the vocals by listening to the song and repeating it. Do your best to hit the notes on your own. Do the best to remember the lyrics on your own. Do your best to just organically learn. Yet don't beat yourself up over it if you can't do it. There's a reason that vocal coaches exist. There's a reason that videos are so popular online about how to play a song. It's because actually it can be detrimental to your overall learning to continually do something wrong. And again, I can say this from experience. There are so many songs that I really thought that I learned it on my own, and it turns out that I actually didn't hit those notes correctly, or I didn't have the right phrasing. And I got to the gig, and guess what? I was wrong. And what happens after that? Well, unfortunately, it's a lot harder to retrain yourself to do something correctly than it is to just get it right. So do your best, of course, to like get it right. Do your best to sing the notes, but don't beat yourself up over it. Go ahead and find a version or teacher, a lesson that works for you, a person that you feel goes at a pace that's good for you, who speaks in a way that's good for you. Don't be afraid to just like look through a billion different versions of how to play until you find the person who communicates in a way that's good for you. Because ultimately, it's just going to make the whole process so much easier and so much more enjoyable, because it is fun. Music is fun. And that's kind of like what I really want to emphasize, right? So at the end of the day, when we're playing, that's what we're doing. We're playing, we're expressing, we're having a sense of enjoyment. And how we learn and the way we feel while we learn really anchors the lesson, or really anchors the music in an embodied way. So if we're learning in an environment that's stressful, or if we're stressing ourselves out as we learn, when we go to perform that piece, we will bring that stress to the performance. So relax. I can say with a certainty that the people watching are so much more forgiving than you'll ever know. There's a particular Prince performance with James Brown that you should look up, because it's horrible, but everyone loves it. And why do they love it? Because we're all human. We all make mistakes, and that's going to happen way more often than you want. And that's okay. It's okay. Trust me. So you got the right version. You got the context. You got your headphones. You've got everything going on. Well, what next? Well, the main thing, of course, is to get it right, you know? To the best of your ability, get it right. And keep doing it. Just because you get it right once does not mean that you're done. Trust me, once again, I can tell you there are so many times where I've put my headphones on, I've written down everything, I've memorized it all, I run through it real quick, I'm like, nailed it, swish, nothing but net, super easy, get to the gig, blam, all gone. Disappeared. What happened? Well, going back to how we remember things, every single time we do a song, it gets anchored in our memory. And how we learn in the environment we learn in is how we can reference those memories in the moment in real time. So what I mean is, right, like if I learn a song piecemeal, like chord by chord, line by line, and get it all memorized in a way that I can recall at a decent relative speed, when I get to the gig, that one single framework of how I memorize the song is not necessarily going to exist at the gig. If the drummer speeds up a little bit, which might happen, you'll have to be able to speed the song up in your mind and go through the parts in your mind at the pace that now exists. Maybe sometimes it'll be slower, maybe sometimes the stage lights will go out and you won't be able to see your guitar, or maybe the campfire is going to be really dim and you can barely see your fingers. So how do we deal with all these different scenarios that come up? Well, you practice in those scenarios. Believe it or not, there was a period where once the lights went out at a gig of mine, and so I started practicing in the dark for a while, because I didn't want to be left in a position where the lights went out and I couldn't see my instrument. And guess what? It happened again. And guess what? I was prepared. And similarly, like I've had many gigs where a drummer rushes or a drummer lags or someone's playing their part wrong or fast or whatever. So I started practicing my songs extra fast. I started practicing my songs extra slow. I started practicing my songs in as many contexts as I could think of, because as we practice our songs in different contexts, we codify those memories in different contexts. So now if a song happens to me or the circumstance happens where the drummer's too fast, guess what? No big deal. I can sing a song 15 beats per minute faster than the recording, and I can sing it at half tempo. Now that comes with practice and time. So are you going to be able to do that immediately? Heck no, like techno, as my friend in high school used to say. However, it will come. And I think that's like probably the most important thing I could really emphasize is just like be easy on yourself. Be gentle, be kind, be curious, be interested, like real interest, right? Because ultimately we will bring to the stage however we treat ourselves. I studied classical piano. I dropped out my senior year before my last recital because the classical environment was filled with lots of toxicity. The way they talked to me, the way they treated me, the way they expected us to treat ourselves. And I ended up bringing that to the stage. Now, could I play Chopin? Yes. But how did I feel? Well, I felt like the way they were treating me, and I felt like the way I was talking to myself. And at the end of the day, I actually can't remember any of the music that I played for years because I'm not in that state of mind anymore. I'm actually a pretty happy guy. I love what I do. And I have to say, like, I'm really glad that I've moved on from that way of interfacing with myself because I like who I am on stage now. And ultimately, that's really what we want out of performance is we want to see a version of you that's authentic and real and vulnerable and honest and sincere. I can say with 100% certainty I've played hotels, I've played festivals, I've played internationally, and I can tell you the best performances I've ever seen in my life were not the perfect performances. They were the most honest and the most sincere performances. Those are the ones that really touch us and move us. So as you move forward, whatever song you're learning, if you suck, give yourself permission to suck. It's okay to suck. Like, trust me. My first gig, someone told me I should quit while I'm ahead. And, honestly, I appreciate that because, hey, at least he was keeping it real. And I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Like, give yourself permission to suck. Give yourself time, give yourself patience, have fun. And kind of like really, most importantly, don't stop. Just keep on going. And hopefully I will come to your gig sometime in the future. Thanks for this hang. It's been awesome.